Hi, Nick Park here from Evangelical Alliance Ireland, and welcome to our weekly video. It's Friday, but Sunday's coming. And this is actually our last video of 2020 because we are not going to have a video on Christmas Day, and neither will we have a video on New Year's Day. So our next EAI video will be released on Friday the 8th of January. You know, who knows where the church will be then? Because we are living in uncertain times, that is for sure. In fact, normally on New Year's Eve, this place would be absolutely packed with people. I mean, just overflowing with people and everybody hugging and laughing and embracing one another. And that's not going to happen this year. We're not even going to hold a New Year's Eve service. It's not even worth trying with the limitations on the numbers and everything else. And it may seem like this Christmas is not a Christmas where you can really celebrate what it's all about. But I want to challenge that idea, because perhaps this is the first Christmas when we can truly understand what Christmas is about. You see, Christmas is not just about everything being contented and happy. Christmas is not just about well-fed children sitting on Santa's knee to ask for expensive presents. Because the very first Christmas, whenever Jesus was born in that stable, it was not an easy time. He was born into an occupied country. His parents were forcibly moved to Bethlehem to register. And you know, when we truly dig a little bit deeper into that, I don't believe that it was a case of, they went to Bethlehem to register on Friday and then stayed the weekend and then went home to Nazareth. No. Because when the Magi came from the east, and because Herod inquired of them the time when the baby had been born, and Herod subsequently killed all the children 2 years old or under, it would indicate that actually Mary and Joseph and Jesus stayed in Bethlehem for a considerable amount of time. And it may well be that this was a forcible population movement, as often happens under colonization. You know, think of the Native Americans being shifted in the genocidal policies of the early United States. Or think about Stalin moving whole tribes of people from one part of the Soviet Union to another. Or we think of what's happening with the Uyghurs in China. Or what happened to certain tribes in Africa under the colonial powers of the French and the British and the Germans and the Belgians. Because what happens is that conquered peoples are subjected to great indignities. And it may well be that that was part of such a movement that led to all the people who were descendants of David having to move to Bethlehem. And certainly it was a nation under occupation. It was a cruel King Herod. There's the slaughter of the innocents, and Jesus, Mary, and Joseph having to flee as asylum seekers into Egypt out of fear for their lives. And so there's a darkness around Christmas. Yes, our Christmas cards show the wonderful light shining from the stable, but all around is darkness. And it may be that this Christmas, in the midst of uncertainty, even when people around us are afraid. And I have to say, throughout this pandemic, I've not encountered fear among any of God's people, concern, but for one another, that they don't want to harm somebody else. But I've not encountered any fear at all from anyone. But there are people outside of the church I know who are afraid. And I was thinking of something this week. I was thinking back 6 years ago to 2014. And in the summer of 2014, our church, Solid Rock Drogheda, had a camp, a family camp at Avoca Manor down in Wicklow. And towards the end of that week, at the evening, after we'd finished all the events for the day, some of us set up a projector and we watched a World Cup semi-final. Brazil were playing Germany. And I don't know if any of you remember that match, but Brazil, they were the hosts of the World Cup, and there was like a feeling in the nation that they were foreordained to win this thing. I mean, all the results, the referees' decisions were just rolling their way. And then they met Germany in the semi-final, and they were hammered 7-1. And I remember watching that as this unfolded, the cameramen were sometimes spending less time focusing on what was happening on the pitch and the national humiliation taking place there, and were pointing their cameras into the crowds. And you saw the faces of the Brazilian fans stunned, in tears, not believing what they were seeing, because it wasn't meant to be like this. And you know what? That reminds me of 2020. Because 50 weeks ago, this place and churches all over the nation were full of people. And we were celebrating going into a new year and what God was going to do. And to be honest, as 2020 has unfolded, we've been a bit like those Brazilian fans. We're like, it wasn't supposed to be like this. This wasn't in the script. You know what? That's where the message of Christmas, that's where the truth of the Incarnation, that the fullness of the Godhead dwelling bodily in that little baby lying in a manger, has the hope to redeem the entire world and every nation in the human race. Yes, without the darkness, without the shock, without the mess that Israel was in at that time, the impact would not be as great and the light would not be as bright. And so on this strangest of Christmases, we have an opportunity as the people of God to show that the light is shining stronger than ever and the darkness can never put it out. My prayer for you is that you, your church, your community of believers, will make the light of Jesus shine further to your friends and neighbors and more powerfully than ever before. And we at Evangelical Alliance Ireland, we want to wish you a very happy Christmas and a better new year in Jesus' name. God bless you. Please join us again on the 8th of January when we resume our next episode of It's Friday, but Sunday's Coming.